Wow, I was muted the entire time. Sorry about that. Welcome back to Bridging the Geekdoms. I'm your host, Robert Slavinsky, and today on the show, we're going to talk about a few things here. Let's see. First, we're going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. We're also going to talk about some big video game news that actually just came up about 2 or 3 hours ago. I finally got a chance to watch Peacemaker. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And restore the Snyderverse update and announcement. My dog's barking. Oh well. And we're going to talk about the Halo TV series. So, how's it going, everybody? All right. So, yeah, no Colton today. No Colton, unfortunately. Let's get to this here. Actually, the first thing I'm going to talk about is this news that actually just came out a little bit ago. This here, Sony acquires Bungie for $3.6 billion, which is actually pretty crazy when you think about it. Microsoft has been wheeling and dealing like crazy the last year or so, and their latest acquisition of Activision was pretty earth-shattering in the realm of video games. And you had to expect Sony was going to come out with something at some point. They had to respond somehow, and it seems that this is their first splash is acquiring Bungie, which is pretty shocking. um, so yeah, the acquisition of Bungie is huge for them. But the interesting thing is, I'm gonna read this down here a little bit. Bungie will remain a multi-platform studio. Destiny 2 is available on PlayStation, PC, and Xbox platforms, with the option to self-publish its games. The studio will remain independent and multi-platform. Will enjoy creative freedom, and their track record in developing massively successful franchises in the sci-fi shooter genre will be highly complementary to Sony's own IP portfolio. And that's huge. That's absolutely huge and crazy to think that Sony's going to allow them to continue being a multi-platform studio. However, I'm not completely sold on that. You know they're going to make exclusive games for Sony while creating multi-platform games as well. But Bungie is not a huge studio. They're not multiple teams working on things. They pretty much work on one game, maybe two games at a time. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, because Sony's going to want to have some exclusivity with having Bungie. They're going to want something that is just theirs from Bungie, much like what's going to happen with Activision and Microsoft. Yes, Activision is going to make exclusive content for Microsoft, just as Bethesda, which they acquired last year, Microsoft acquired last year, is going to make exclusive content for Microsoft. So it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. It's being said that Sony isn't done, that they do look to be finding more companies to acquire. And it's really interesting what's going on in the video game world, because there's no longer a console war going on, it seems like. Really what it seems like is it's becoming a IP war, a content war of sorts, and who can gobble up the most studios to create exclusive IPs. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward with this. All, like I said, it's pretty interesting and shocking. I didn't expect that to happen today. But let me know your thoughts below on what's going on here for sure. Now, Brandon, I know he saw my tweet. I did post it, restore the Snyderverse movement announcement. Yes, there is an announcement today. We'll get into the restore the Snyderverse stuff in a little bit. So don't worry if you're sticking around. Please, I hope you stick around. Make sure you smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't yet. But yeah, we're gonna get to that. I have some stories I want to hit on before we get to that as well. So if you're new to the show, welcome to the show. If you're new, all right. So I want to get into the Mandalorian here, or not the Mandalorian, the Book of Boba Fett, whatever you want to call it now, because that episode 5 was absolutely insane. I haven't been a huge fan of the Book of Boba Fett. I think I've said it on the last few episodes that I've enjoyed it, but it's not earth shattering. It's not like the Mandalorian where you have to and you want to watch every single episode every single week. The Book of Boba Fett, it's been good, better than what I thought it was going to be, but like I said, it didn't grab me like that. Well, this past episode was absolutely insane, where we had no Boba Fett. It was all Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. It was a fantastic episode. And first off, I got to pull this up here. Brandon, thank you for subbing and liking. I am pretty cool, I think. I'd like to say I am pretty cool. I've been doing this for quite some time, so hopefully you think I'm pretty cool, but make sure you stick around. Anyway, this episode of The Mandalorian was fantastic, or the Book of Boba Fett. The Book of Boba Fett was fantastic. Following Din Djarin, him learning more about the dark saber, which in turn was teaching the viewers more about the dark saber, which I think was really important because the history of the dark saber was learned in the Clone Wars and Rebels, and we're finally seeing it here in live action, where I think you have a different type of viewership. The Book of Mando Fett, Brandon says, and absolutely, it was just an absolutely great episode, and every time I talk about it, I keep saying The Mandalorian because it essentially was a Mandalorian episode, and because it followed him, and it was showing you what was going on after the end of season 2, what Din Djarin is up to. The fact that he took that Beskar pike or spear or what you want to call it and created some kind of armor for Grogu, something I called back during season 2 whenever he got that. I was like, that's going to be some kind of armor for Grogu. And then it didn't. There was no payoff at the end of season 2, so I was all upset. But it's nice to see that that's happening. It's nice to see that he's going to go see Grogu, which again, the story of the Mandalorian is a father-son story. It is about a father and a son. And when season 2 ended, we have to remember that that was going to be it. They did not initially plan for this to be a long-running series. The Book of Boba Fett was supposed to take over at the end of season 2. And things, because of the popularity and how big it was, they decided, okay, let's move this on and keep doing more. So it's understandable that they're going to continue that father-son storyline. I just not really sure how it's going to happen, because I really feel that it's a disservice to Grogu if they pull him away from Luke and not allow him to continue training. But we want to see that relationship with him and Mando be furthered. But yeah, I can't wait to see what happens. I love that he got a new starship with the old Naboo starfighter, and just fixing it up and making it faster. I've always been a fan of the Naboo starfighter, even though I'm not a big fan of the Phantom Menace. I always loved that design. I remember the old what was it? Rogue Squadron video game. You were able to get that in the game as like unlockable content, and I would always use it. I loved the Naboo starfighter, so I'm really excited that they brought that back into the fold. And obviously, can't talk about that without talking about the compartment in the back, which is obviously going to house Grogu. That's going to be his seat there for all their adventures, as well as I think that BD droid. I'm telling you, I don't think they brought that BD droid in just to be a one and done. I think that BD droid is going to join the Mandalorian. I just have a feeling. I love the BD droid. I loved it in Jedi Fallen Order, and I loved it here. So it'll be interesting to see how that follows through. But again, let me know down in the comments what you thought of episode 5 of the Mandalorian, or the Book of Boba Fett. See, I keep doing it. Do we think Luke Skywalker is going to be in the next episode? Do we think Grogu is going to be in the next episode? There's a lot of rumors out there. Mark Hamill's been posting stuff on social media alluding to the possibility of a return to Star Wars. There's also some rumors that Han Solo may pop up in this, and you have to think it's right around that time. Luke and Han and Leia, all of them would be together in some form or fashion at this time, and in the timeline. So that'd be kind of cool if we saw that. But let me know in the comments below what you
Sorry,
think
could
is.
you say that again?
And
Sorry.
Siri's talking. Great. I'm just having a whole bunch of technical difficulties today. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Book of Boba Fett episode 5 and what you think is going to come up in the final 2 episodes of this season. All right. So that is that. I talked about that. I'm going to quickly talk about this here. I know everybody wants me to get to the Restore the Snyderverse stuff. I'm going to get there in a minute. But the Peacemaker show. Now, Peacemaker, what is it? It has 4 or 5 episodes. And have held off watching it. I just haven't decided to sit down and watch it until the other day. I finally sat down and said, you know what, I'm bored. Let me watch it. And I kind of binged whatever amount of episodes there were in one day. It's a show. Do I hate it? No. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's got its place in the genre, and it feels like they're trying to borrow from the Deadpool crowd and really kind of move forward with the crowd that enjoys Deadpool, but just a little more raunchier. But that's really what it feels like. And there's a place for that kind of comedy in the superhero genre for sure. And I think the reason why people are so upset with Peacemaker and this whole show and this idea is because it's not the Snyderverse. And there's this whole fandom that's behind the Snyderverse and wanting the Snyderverse to continue. That when you sit there and you get something that isn't Snyderverse related exactly, people are just going to get upset and there's going to be controversy around it. And I get that. I get that to a certain degree, but I don't I think people aren't giving it a fair shot because of that. Because it isn't a bad show. It's not a great show by any stretch of the imagination. I feel about it just like I felt about the Suicide Squad. It's good. It has its moments, and I chuckle a few times, and I have a good time watching it. Is it something that I'm going to sit there and talk about on a daily basis and get excited about the future of? No, because it's not that kind of content. And that's what James Gunn does. He doesn't make content like that. He's kind of like a I look at James Gunn as more of like a shock jock type of director. He does what he wants to do, how he wants to do it to shock you, to get everybody talking at that moment, and then it goes away, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. And that's kind of how I see Peacemaker. That's how I saw the Suicide Squad, and even his Guardians films. While I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy, it was a departure from Marvel at the time, so it was a shock type of feel to that movie because it was a departure from the typical Marvel formula at that time. So again, I don't hate Peacemaker. It's a show. It's all right. I've enjoyed watching a few episodes, a few moments. I've giggled. I've chuckled, all that jazz. But I'm not going to say it's the best thing out there. And I don't think it's the direction that all of DC should go when it comes to live action. And they're not. They're not. But that's kind of how I look at it. So again, if you've watched Peacemaker, if you have an opinion, let me know what your thoughts are. I want to hear it because honestly, like I said, it's not as bad as what some people are making, but it's also not as great as what some others are saying as well. Definitely let me know down in the comments. All right, so I'm going to get to this here now. I want to before we get into this, I want people to understand. Yes, I do have some information on the Snyderverse, but the announcement is not necessarily about that. So I will talk about the Snyderverse. The announcement is something related to the Snyderverse, but not exactly like, oh, it's greenlit or anything like that, even though I really wish it was. I'm sure all of you do too as well. So let's get into this. All right. So first and foremost, um, I've talked to a few people here and there across the stratosphere, and while there's so much going on right now when it comes to the Snyderverse and the excitement surrounding it and the passion and what people want when it comes to DC content, um, if I were you, be hopeful, but don't expect anything anytime in the immediate future. Everyone is hopeful. Everyone knows that there have been talks going on between Zaslav and all of these filmmakers that have either been shorthanded or just done dirty by Warner Brothers recently. And Zaslav is doing this because he wants to bond these relationships to bring so he can bring in the best talent into Warner Brothers to create content for the brand. Makes complete sense. Now, one of the things that he has also been doing is he's been working with figuring out how to best correlate HBO Max and Discovery and getting that all together because HBO Max is going to be a big part of the future for Warner Brothers. And one of the things that people need to realize is this isn't something that's going to take 1 day, 2 days to happen. Prior to the sale being finalized, there's very limited things that he can do. He can discuss things with Warner Brothers executives, but lawyers have to be in the room or things like that. He has to be very careful. He cannot speak on behalf of Warner Brothers at this point in time. So I say be hopeful, stay excited. With that, and the reason why I say stay excited is Henry Cavill. We know for a number of months now, Henry Cavill is multiple times he has said, look, the cape's in the closet. It still fits. I'm ready to put it on again. Let's go. And there's been talks about how he pitched a Superman movie and he wants to do this and he wants to continue being Superman. And a lot of people were concerned and worried because when you take a look at what's going on at DC and Warner Brothers right now, you have Supergirl kind of taking over. You have Batgirl taking over for Batman, and people were confused with what's going on. Yes, Henry Cavill is going to be appearing in cameo roles in a couple things coming up. Black Adam, Shazam, even the Flash movie is a possibility. But people are trying to find out, is Henry Cavill going to continue being Superman at this point in time? Excuse me. And look, there have been talks about contracts for quite some time to extend Henry Cavill. But with everything going on right now, in the grand scheme of things, with the sale and the merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers and all that, they don't want to sign a long-term contract just yet. It's going to happen. There are things going on in the background, and Cavill. The reason why he keeps saying the cape's in the closet, this or that, I'm ready to go, because he wants people to know it's not him holding this up. He's not the one that's holding this up. He is ready to go. It's just there are things in the back that have to happen. Once this merger is complete, which it looks like it's probably going to be March, April, probably more April. Once this happens, this merger happens, I would say give 3 to 6 months before anything big really is announced. Whether it's contracts, whether it's storylines, what have you. I would not expect Zaslav, the sale, to go through and within the first week or two, Zaslav to come out and say, well, Snyder versus Greenland, Henry Cavill signed a 20-year contract, blah, 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 all that. Don't expect that. And I know I'm exaggerating things, but just stay hopeful. And here's the thing. I want everybody to stay hopeful. Last year, I helped put on a pretty big event with a number of YouTubers around the internet, some pretty notable ones such as Poindexter Lounge, Four Nerds, Nerdy in Many Ways, Super Hive, some really great content creators out there. And we put on an event last March, I believe it was like March 28th. It was called Us United More Than a Hashtag. And we did that event to celebrate the release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, to say thank you to Zack Snyder for sticking with us, for giving us something that great. So this year, I really enjoyed doing that, and we raised money for AFSP. So I thought, what better way to honor Zack Snyder, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and once again help those in need than to run another event. So Saturday, March 19th, 2022, we're going to have a watch party celebration event. Us United, 1 year of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to once again raise money for AFSP. And I am working right now. I am working on getting guests from around YouTube spectrum, again, to take part in this event. I think this is going to be a lot of fun because I think last year we had the shock and it was, holy crap, Zack Snyder's Justice League is out. This is amazing. We love it. We love it so much. But this year it's going to be, we can sit back. We can have a great discussion about the movie. We could talk about everything that led up to it. We could talk about how it has impacted our lives to this point and what this movement has done for everybody. Because what I continuously try to convey to those within this fandom is that we have to stay passionate, we have to stay excited, we also have to stay united. We have to stay united because that is what got us the victory in the first place. So to sit back and constantly bicker between each other and bicker with others on the internet, that is not what made us successful. So what I decided, I said, look, we're going to do this event again. Maybe make it a yearly thing. If this one's successful, maybe we'll do it again the following year. But we're going to do on March 19th, Us United, 1 year of Zack Snyder's Justice League, a watch party celebration event. I am looking forward to this. I hope you all are looking forward to this. I will be putting more information out over the coming weeks. I'm looking at really ramping up the promoting and pushing for this within the next week or so. Again, I got to talk with a lot of people around the internet. I want to try and get some people attached to really just have a good time. Last year it was a 2-day event. I'm shortening it, making it a 1-day event. And it may not even be an entire day, maybe a part of a day, because I want everybody to come and celebrate at one time. Whenever you spread it out so much, it kind of seems like you don't have as much at one time of celebrating. And that's kind of what I want to do here. So please make sure March 19th, 2022, we're going to have the Us United 1 year of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it definitely will be, at least in part, on this channel, Bridging the Geekdoms. Depending on who I can get, it may cross a couple other channels, but definitely in part will be on Bridging the Geekdoms. So make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss it. You don't miss it. All right. So that is my Restore the Snyderverse stuff. Like I said, stay hopeful. Stay hopeful. From what I've heard from people I've talked to, there is reason to stay hopeful. But everything hinges on this merger. And I think we all know that. We all know that everything hinges on this merger. And then a little tidbit that I don't think a lot of people knew was the Henry Cavill stuff. Because again, yes, it hinges on the merger, but things are moving. Things are moving. Let's see, Brandon. Hell yeah, sounds awesome. Also, wanted to ask if it's possible that some sort of DC announcements will happen shortly after the merger. I need more of the Batman spinoffs, such as Riddler. Well, as I said, when this merger is complete, because you have to remember, things take time to be processed. I'm not going to say Zaslav doesn't have things up his sleeve and ready for when he comes in to really get things moving, but what you have to pay or realize is there are already plans in place that Warner Brothers made over the last 2 years or so. You know, Aquaman 2, Shazam 2, Black Adam, the Batman, excuse me, the Wonder Woman 3. All of these things are planned and in some sort of production in some form or fashion, whether it's being written, it's in pre-production, post-production, ready to come out, whatever it is. So you have all this stuff already in motion. Batgirl, and a lot of that stuff is going to come out after this merger occurs. So a lot, if Zaslav wants anything changed, let's say he brings in somebody, let's say he removes Walter Hamada and from the DC side, he brings somebody else in to run DC properties. It's not going to be something that they can sit there and say, okay, we're going to greenlight this, 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 and this. It's going to be about what has worked, what isn't working, and how can we course correct to move forward. The Batman, which comes out in what 30-ish days or so. I mean, it's coming out soon. But when that comes out, I think I think it's going to do well. I do. I think it's going to do well. And Matt Reeves has a lot of pull at Warner Brothers. He's kind of like their big guy right now over at Warner Brothers because of them losing Nolan recently. They do have Denis Villeneuve, but again, that's he's working on Dune. But it, when Batman comes out, they can't just green light anything at that point in time because that's right when the merger is going to be completed. They're going to come in, they're going to really take a look and see what's going on. Yeah, we have that Penguin spinoff, we have the Gotham PD spinoff. That's all stuff that has been in the works for, you know, 18 months or so or more. Anything new when it comes to the Batman or DC projects that haven't yet been announced, they're all on hold right now. Anything that's not announced or was there is not in any form of deep production. Um, it's all on hold, and it's all going to be based off of what Zaslav does when he comes in. Again, there could be things that get announced still, but that might be stuff that has been in production for longer than we're aware of, because not everything gets announced when it's in pre-production. You know, sometimes they, believe it or not, studios will sometimes put things in production and work on things before telling people. It's shocking, I know. In this day and age, it's hard to believe that. There was a time when people didn't know about anything until there was a trailer. Sometimes people didn't know anything until it was in Entertainment Weekly. So it's crazy to think how Hollywood is working. And right now, it's kind of working in that way again. They're holding their cards close to the chest, especially Warner Brothers right now. And it's not so much that they're afraid of the fans; it's just this merger. That's really what's going on. And yeah, long story short, yes, it basically Brandon said, oh, okay, so basically everything depends on the merger, and it might take some extra time for everything to be revealed. I can't wait. And yeah, I mean, a long way around is saying yes, the merger is what's kind of holding everything up. But keep in mind, I want you to keep in mind that um, Zaslav has been talking to people. He has been trying to mend bridges with filmmakers. And when he gets in there, he could have something up his sleeve that we just don't know. He could get in there and within 2 days have Zack Snyder come out and say, "All right, we're continuing this, we're doing this." Could it be live action? Could it be animated? Who knows? Like I said, I've always said when it comes to the Snyderverse, people need to temper their expectations because with how long it takes for things to be made, if they want to capitalize, they're going to want to fast track things. They're going to want to get things done quickly. Animation is not out of the question still. And I know people don't like to hear that, but that is something that Zach himself alluded to a number of months ago, more than a year ago, building up to Zack Snyder's Justice League. Things could have changed, especially with this whole merger stuff going on. But people need to realize that Zaslav could have something up his sleeve. We're taking a look at what's going on in broad views and understanding how previous mergers and sales have gone before. He could have something up his sleeve. I would like to think so. Maybe they're just waiting for him to get there, and then they're going to put pen to paper on things. I don't know, but I would say give it a good 6 months until you really, once the merger is complete, which is looking like April, I would say give it a good 6 months. I would say by the autumn of 2022, yeah. So maybe Halloween time, between Halloween and Christmas, I would say is your best bet in hearing some announcements or starting to hear rumblings of things that are being done. And that kind of lines up with the Flash. Keep that in mind. Not saying that the Flash is going to change anything, but I have faith, and I also have a theory that Zaslav already has a huge plan. Fingers crossed. Oh, I believe he has a huge plan as well. I do. I have no doubt that Zaslav has a huge plan because he knows how important the DC brand is to Warner Brothers. When you take a look at what Disney has done with their Marvel brand, he knows that there's money to be made there. And then he also sees how much Warner Brothers has screwed that up since 2012. Since 2012, you're talking about 10 years where they could have built an amazing universe and we have what we have, which is just a complete mess, no direction. And I'm not one of those people that sit there and say I want them to build a universe like Marvel, because I don't. I want them to do their own thing. I want them to heavily go into the multiverse aspect. I want them to have four directors making different universe of movies where you have four different Batmans and four different Supermans, and then build up to a crazy crisis event where they all come together. That would be amazing. And we're getting some spam here. All right. There we go. Get rid of that. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I that's what I want to see. But what does Zaslav have up his sleeve? And remember, and I'm going to tell you this, is Brandon. I don't know if you know this. I know you're watching. The success or failure of any DC movie that is coming out right now will have no impact on whether the Snyderverse is restored. Remember that. You want to boycott? I know there's a lot of people out there wanting to boycott. Go for it. You know, show them with your money what you do or you don't want. But I'm telling you, if the Flash makes $100 million and that's it, Warner Brothers isn't going to sit there and go, "Well, I guess we got to greenlight the Snyderverse." That's not what's going to happen. It would be a complete overhaul of their DC properties if that something that bad happened. So keep that in mind, because a lot of people sit there and act like if you boycott Warner Brothers, you're going to get what you want. That's not what's going to happen. It's not. It's not going to happen. If anything, it's going to make matters worse and less likely to get it. And that is things I've heard from multiple people in the know. They're not looking at these boycotts like you all are. So keep that in mind. And again, I'm not, I, use your money, do what you got to do, but don't think that it's going to get you the Snyderverse. Brandon, oh snap, hell yeah, I love the Batman with Pattinson, and I was worried that if it doesn't do well, we won't get the possible Catwoman and Riddler HBO Max rumored films. Yeah, that stuff there. Again, I think the Batman's going to do fine. I think take a look at like the Dark Knight, maybe even the Dark Knight Rises. I think it's going to do numbers like that, around close to $1 billion, maybe 800 million, somewhere around there is what I think it's going to do financially, which is going to be a home run for Warner Brothers in that regard. I think that that's what they're hoping for. I think they know that with the dark tone and how the marketing has been, hitting that $1 billion is really unlikely, because you're not. I think parents are going to be afraid to take their kids to a movie, especially when you watch the marketing for this. There's scenes with Batman and Catwoman that look kind of sexual, and it seems very dark and gritty and brutal. And I think parents are going to be a little hesitant in taking their kids to go see it. Now, obviously, it is Batman, so I think parents aren't going to pay attention to some of that marketing and take their kids anyways. So that's why I think it'll hit that 800 million, 900 million. But $1 billion is going to be a bit of a stretch. I think it's possible if it is really that good and someone like I or you go and see it multiple times. People like us is what's going to put it over that mark. But where Marvel movies has the kids that really help push that money up high, I don't think Batman's going to have that. So don't worry. I wouldn't worry about possible spin-offs and continuations of characters when it comes to the Matt Reeves universe from a financial success point. Where I would worry about that is having too many projects under Reeves, because he wants to do a trilogy. He's got that Gotham PD thing he wants to do. There's that Penguin series going on. So how is he going to have time to be involved with all of this and make sure everything is working? Not saying he can't do it. Not saying he can't do it, and not saying Warner Brothers won't want him to do it. I just think that that's where I would be worried about. My guess is some of these rumored things were, hey, what about this idea, or what about this idea, or what about this idea, and some of them are going to stick and some of them aren't. But that's just kind of where I see it. It's going to be interesting. I am interested to see where this Matt Reeves Batman verse universe goes. It should be fun and interesting for sure. All right, you get a drink there. My throat's getting a little dry. Yeah, next thing. I'm gonna pull this up here because I'm kind of excited about this. Moving away from DC a little bit, we're gonna check out the Halo trailer, the series. So, let's see. Too loud. All right, let's get this going. Let's check this out. If you haven't seen it, here it is. If you have,
You. Humanity's best
looks
weapon.
great. And it sounds like they're using the
Master
sounds
Chief,
from the video game, which is amazing.
The Master Chief was enhanced and trained for one purpose: to win this war. He and the other Spartans are our only effective weapons against the Covenant. He is lethal, upgradable, and most importantly, controllable.
Covenant forces appear to be excavating some kind of object.
I think the voice is
When I
great.
touched the object, I felt something. I felt different.
No, it's no Steve Downs, but
What
I
they
think
did
it's
to us.
excellent.
Makes you numb.
And you just decided to help me. Why would a Spartan do that?
What does one do with a superhuman you're not sure you can trust?
Hello, Master Chief. I'm Cortana.
Master Chief recovered something.
Sacred ring. Halo.
Humans. Surrender to the Covenant.
Cortana, I'm gonna need you now. Find the Halo. Win the war.
I can't wait for that show. Like I honestly cannot wait for that show. I've been a Halo fan since 2001. I cannot wait for it at all. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's going to be better than I think anybody was thinking it could be. Um, because I wasn't expecting for it to look this good, especially being Paramount. I still think it kind of looks like it's got a budget similar to that of like the Star Trek shows that we've been seeing on Paramount Plus, but it's Halo. Like it's legitimately Halo, and I know there was some speculation also on the whole aspect of the Silver timeline being a completely different timeline than the video game. I'm all for that because it's going to allow them to explore different aspects of the franchise in a way. Yes, it's going to borrow from the games. Yes, it's going to explore ideas from the games, but it's also going to be able to do its own thing. And I do like that quite a bit because I think they would have been a little too um, there would have been too many constraints had they had to stick to the video game lore, especially because I think there's some things that didn't work in that franchise over the course of what 8 games or 9 games that they've had in total with Halo Wars and Reach and everything. There's a number of things that just didn't work, and this gives them the opportunity to get away from those things that didn't work and do their own thing. So I'm really excited about this show, and there's some things that I really, really like. Obviously, the look of Master Chief, I think, is amazing. I think they did a great job, and showing a character looking. And again, this could be just editing, but it appears this character who's going to be one of the main characters looking up at Master Chief, seeing this powerful super soldier. That's important to me because you need to make him feel like he's he can accomplish anything. And I'm getting more spam here, so let's get rid of that real quick. Uh, let's see. So that's exciting. And then, like I said here in this scene here, I absolutely love because the minigun sounds like the turret from the Halo games. I thought that's phenomenal. I literally the gun sounds just like it does in the game, which I love. And then we get another shot of Master Chief. The visor is a little weird. I think it's a little too crisp and clean, and I think I think it needed to be a little more transparent than it is. To me, it makes him look a little more robotic than he really should. But again, it doesn't ruin it for me at all. I like how they show the augmentation done to his body, which is hopefully going to play a big role in this series, and explaining that to the viewer. We get to see Marines, which is really cool. I do like that. Dr. Halsey. Now, this actress, what is her name? Catherine. I can't remember what her name is. I'm not a big fan of her as an actress. I hope she does okay here. She was on a show that I really like called Designated Survivor with Kiefer Sutherland, and she was the worst part of that show. I really could not stand her character on that show. I'm not a big fan of her as an actress, but hopefully she's able to pull this off as Dr. Halsey. And then I love just the shots of the other Spartans here, which I was really curious if we were going to get other Spartans in this show. That is something that I was kind of hoping we would see, because I read, especially the first 3 books that came out for the Halo lore. I read those books, and some of the best moments in those books were the relationships being built with all of the Spartans. And I've always felt like the games have lost a little bit of that. We had some of it in Halo 5, and I really wanted them to continue that, and they didn't with Halo Infinite. But Halo Reach was great with it. Halo 5 did well with it. I just don't understand why they got away from it in the games. So I'm excited that they're bringing it into the series here. And then we see them here walking. What is that? Gray team or silver team or something? I'm not great with my Halo lore. I know there's some people like Hidden Xperia out there, or Act Man and stuff like that out there on YouTube who are phenomenal when it comes to the lore of Halo. I'm not that verse in it, but I do love Halo a lot. I don't know if you can tell my excitement here. I am very excited for this show. Let's see. Okay. We're gonna show it here. The Elite. Now, a lot of people thought at first this was the Arbiter from Halo 2. I think this is just an Elite. I think this is just we get a close-up look and design of an Elite, and I think it looks phenomenal. There's some people out there who say they don't like the design because it is slightly different than what we've seen in the games, but I think it looks phenomenal. I really do. We get a nice shot of a Warthog driving, which we better see a whole bunch of Warthogs in this, let me tell you. We see some explosions, some fighting. We get another shot of Master Chief. There we go. Another shot of Master Chief there. And what superhero pose? Such a poser for Marvel fans out there. I'm going to play this for there. Crud. We get like this first person view right here. You can see like his gun right here. So I don't know if they're going to go and have moments. I don't know if you remember that Doom movie that came out, I think it was like 2005, where they had like a whole sequence of like a first person shooter in it. That movie's terrible. I don't know if they're going to go for something like that here. Excuse me. I'm not completely against it. If it's done right, I think it could be done well. But it's really interesting to see how they're going to handle this, because if you watch this scene play out, it goes from first person and seamlessly transitions to being third person outside of that, and he's fighting 2 elites, which I think looks phenomenal. I love the movements and the way that he's taking on 2 elites. Just feels very Master Chief to me. He takes it and he's using everything at his disposal. He takes his gun and he shoots one of them, and he turns around and he smacks the other elite with his gun. I think it's phenomenal. I think that's exactly how Master Chief would handle something like that. But seeing, again, another shot of Master Chief, and he's all banged up there. But again, looks phenomenal. And then he's grabbing an artifact, a Forerunner artifact, and him being a reclaimer, humans are reclaimers, is definitely going to play a role into this. And the one thing that I was also worried about is, like, how are they going to do this? Are they going to really get to the Halo ring in this show? Is it going to be getting off Halo? Like, what's going to be the catalyst of the show? And it seems like this artifact as they're hunting down the Covenant, they come across this artifact. He touches it, and Master Chief is the one that actually learns about the Halo ring before they go and find the Halo. Like in the game and in the books, they have no idea what Halo is until they get to the Halo ring. It looks like he's going to know about it here early on. So at the end of the trailer, he says, "Find Halo, win the war." I think that's going to be something that is the catalyst of this entire show, is going to be finding Halo, at least in this first season. And then if we get a season 2, I think it'll be on Halo, which I'm kind of excited about. We got some cool looking visuals, cool cities, young John, seeing like she's confused, like, why is he helping me? Again, it's showing the humanity. I think they're going to be using that character to show the humanity and the compassion that Master Chief has, because we want to. We need to have a connection to this world, and Master Chief being the main catalyst, being the only main character, wouldn't give us that. Whereas I think with somebody like this, that's going to give us our entry into the story to relate and to understand what is going on and to have an impact on us, so we care about these characters and what's going on. And a great shot of the Pelican there. I just, these visuals, everything looks so good. Like I can't, like I said, I feel the budget is around what the Star Trek budget is, maybe a little higher, but they made it all look damn good. I think that's Lord Hood with Halsey there. People really aren't sure who that is. All right. This was the money shot of this trailer, believe it or not. People have been wondering what's Cortana gonna look like, and people are upset about this. And I'm not gonna say I hate it. I'm not gonna say I love it. I kind of understand that they wanted to make their own choice and go their own direction with it. I don't know why they went this route, because the Cortana from the games is such an iconic look of the character that you would have thought, hey, they would just go that route. But you have to imagine that they had different models and designs made up, and this is the one they felt was the best looking, and this is what they're going with. This also may not be the final form or final look of Cortana. This could be when she's part of a ship AI, like part of the ship, but when she's the AI in the chip on the back of his helmet, when she pops up, like, it could look different. So I'm holding judgment until I see the film, but I don't think it looks bad. And the fact that Jen Taylor, the voice of Cortana in the video games, is doing the voice here, absolutely just tickles me. I love that. I love that she's part of it, because she wasn't originally. The character who was playing Halsey, whatever her name is, she was going to be doing both parts, but due to scheduling conflicts, she could not do both parts, which is fine with me because I'm not a big fan of hers. Jen Taylor doing it. Perfect. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, we get the intense music, and we start to find out beautiful shot of the Phantom there. More Spartans. Miranda Keys. We start to get more information on what this story is going to be about. Like I said, it's about finding Halo to win this war. Because if the Covenant are able to start their great journey by finding the ring, they could destroy all of life in the universe. And I think that's really what they're going to be going for here. And I'm okay with that. I think, again, these visuals, you have High Charity, you have the Prophets. It all looks amazing and fantastic. And this shot here. So this character is a human character who is raised by the Covenant, which is brand new to Halo for sure. So it's going to be interesting to see how she fits into this and what her main purpose of this show is. My guess is it's going to be the equivalent to that human character on, that's going to be with Master Chief, giving us an insight to how we should feel there. She's going to be kind of the insight to the Covenant. But yeah, and then what's attacking these men here? They look like the worms that create the hunters in the game. So that'd be really interesting if that's what those are, because I've never seen them not in hunter form, so it's interesting for sure. And then great shot there. Again, this trailer gives you everything that you would want in preparing for a Halo television series. And the fact that it comes out March 24th, which is less than 2 months away, excites me more than it probably should, but I'm real excited about it. And uh, I can't believe it's finally happening. We've been waiting for live action Halo since 2006 is when they announced that Guillermo del Toro and Neil Blomkamp were going to be doing a movie, and then that never panned out. And then in 2013, they announced Steven Spielberg was going to be doing a television show, and then it took until 2022 for this show to finally come out. It feels like it's been forever in the making, but I cannot wait to see it. So let me know your thoughts below on what you think of the Halo series trailer, what your expectations are for the show. Are you excited about it? Or are you mad that they are changing the lore up that has its own timeline, the silver timeline? I'm all for it. I can't wait to see what they do with it. And what do you think about the design of Cortana, Master Chief's voice? Because it's all different from the games, but I think it all works, and I'm excited to see how it all plays out. All right, so I did get another comment from Brandon while I was doing this. Brandon goes, I love all DC, but Snyderverse in the Reeves universe is what excites me the most. Snyderverse absolutely excites me more than anything when it comes to DC. I've Man of Steel is still my favorite superhero movie and quite possibly one of my top 3 movies of all time. Batman vs Superman is a misunderstood film that I think people should give more credit to. And Zack Snyder's Justice League was phenomenal. So I really do love what Snyder has created when it comes to these DC characters. But I'm also not against seeing what else they could do. I'm not against, like, J.J. Abrams has been supposedly making and creating content for DC, and things got put on hold. He was going to be doing the Justice League Dark, and that was all stuff that was supposed to be coming out within the past year or more. I'm sure the pandemic didn't help, and I'm sure now the merger isn't helping with that. But I'm interested to see what he was going to do. Obviously, I'm interested to see what Matt Reeves does with Batman and see where he takes these characters and that character. So absolutely, I'm a huge DC fan. I've been a big DC fan since I was a little kid. My earliest memories are with my dad sitting on his lap watching the 1966 Batman reruns, eating cookies. I'm a huge Batman fan. My first theatrical experience was 1989's Batman. So DC is ingrained in me, and I get the disappointment and everything that has kind of come over the last 7, 8, 9 years. But that doesn't mean I'm not excited to see what is coming, because I think Walter Hamada actually has a plan. And that's one thing that people don't realize is whether you like it or not, Walter Hamada does have a plan. He has things lined up. I mean, the Flash movie is reestablishing the DCEU. And whether it's successful and it moves forward and it's exciting is one thing. But he does have a plan. And personally, I want to see where it goes. Yeah, there's some questionable things about the Flash movie that I've heard, that I've seen, that just make me but I'm still interested. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this, because I am a DC fan. I'm not just a Snyder fan. I'm not just a Reeves fan. I'm not just an Abrams fan. I'm not just a Nolan fan. I'm a fan of DC property. For as much as the Green Lantern movie sucked, I still have watched it multiple times. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't just say, oh, it sucks, so I'm done with it. I'm going to boycott because you're not doing what I want. It's not mine to do. Warner Brothers owns it, so they can do what they want. And I'm curious to see what they do with it. So hopefully people, when we have this event come up, my whole idea with this is not to, create any animosity between people. It's about bringing us all together and celebrating what Zach's created and get excited for what the possibility is in the future of DC content and what we could be getting moving forward. Because honestly, I think when we come together and we show our excitement and passion, when we do all of that, that is when this fandom is most fun. Today on Twitter, Snyderverse, with the Restore the Snyderverse, was trending. that was exciting. That kind of stuff is exciting to see that trending. Why? Just because we're going to go out and make this trend because it's something that we love. To me, that's exciting. But whenever we sit there and use these negative comments and this toxicity to call out Warner Brothers or Walter Hamada or Emmerich, whoever's in charge of Warner Brothers, when you go out and start being negative towards all those people, that's whenever it's not fun to me. And that's what this event on March 19th is all about, is getting back to celebrating, staying passionate, being excited, staying united, and moving forward. So hopefully, for all of you out there, you can join us on March 19th. It's going to be a watch party celebration event. More information will be coming within the next few weeks. Hopefully, I can get a list of guest YouTubers to be part of it, which I'm really hoping I can get some part of it. But it's going to be a good time, I think. I do. And I'm going to want the fans involved as well. Last year, we had people submit videos. I may do the same thing this year, have people submit videos for it. So just keep an eye out for announcements on my Twitter at BridgeGeekdoms, or subscribe and watch my videos because I'll be making the announcements every week. Every Monday is my show. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. Follow me on TikTok because I throw stuff up there sometimes too, at BridgeGeekdoms or BridgingTheGeekdoms or whatever. So, but yeah, I got nothing else, guys. Brandon, I want to thank you for watching and partaking and commenting and participating. It was great. I love having conversations with people on here. And like I said, I've been doing this for quite some time. And when I start this is what excites me the most, is getting to talk to people while I'm doing this. That's what I love doing so much. So thank you, Brandon, for participating in the show today. I hope you are excited about the event, and I hope you like the information I gave you, because it's exciting. It really is, and you got to stay hopeful. And I know you're going to stay hopeful, and that's what's going to help. That is all going to help for sure. All right, but with all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that jazz for just the audio version. Otherwise, find us on YouTube. And with all that said, I'll talk to all of you later.